What is up, guys? It's Dan the Man, and today I'm back with another one of Chess Zone's rated games of the week, held on Tuesdays. And apologies for a bit of a late recording. I tried to record as usual on Safari, but I've been experiencing some technical difficulties. The game review kept reloading and crashing. So after some trial and error, I'm recording this on Google Chrome, so that's why I had to do a bit of troubleshooting before releasing the video out to you guys. But I think I found a solution. Google Chrome is holding up much better than Safari is, so we're just going to go with that. And anyway, in this rated game, I'm playing against Caden Qiao. He's starting to become a regular on the channel. We played against each other very recently in a classical tournament back earlier in the month, and he won against me in a really cool endgame where I sacked the exchange. And it came out of a French defense, and what you're going to see is that even though Caden and I play most of the starting moves identically, it's going to turn out to be the complete antithesis of what we played last time. And it's going to be a very wild and chaotic game, so just go ahead and stay tuned for that. So I have the white pieces, just like last time, and Caden has the black pieces. I'm rated 1981, and he's rated 2147. So let's kick things off here. So here, I begin the game with e4. He goes with e6, the French defense, as before. d4, d5. Here I go with knight to c3. He takes, which is what he did last time. Knight takes e4, knight d7, knight f3, knight g to f6, knight takes f6 check, knight takes f6, bishop to d3. And if I remember correctly, Caden played the move bishop to e7 last time in the classic tournament. And we got a very peaceful game where not much was happening, and it was just sort of a rook versus rook and bishop endgame. But here, Caden plays something different. He plays the move b6. And here I knew that b6 was a much more aggressive sideline because he's already fianchettoing the bishop on a very monstrous diagonal. And if that bishop points at my king side, it's going to pose some problems down the road. But, I don't really know my French theory too well, so I thought this move was kind of an inaccuracy because it kind of weakens the diagonal leading to his king. So that's why I play the move knight e5. Notice with b6 that he kind of weakens the c6 square a bit since the pawn can no longer defend it. And I'm also looking with some ideas of playing bishop to b5 check, which would be more unpleasant for black since, they can't play c6 to block. So that's why I played knight e5, even though it sort of violates opening principles, moving the same piece twice. So here Caden prevents that. He plays the move queen d5. Although what's crazy here is that the engine says you can allow the check on b5, but that doesn't really seem human. Because after bishop to b7, I was very confused why the engine was suggesting this as a move. Because, you allowed the check, and you can't block in a good way, right? It doesn't look like it. And if you move your king to e7, it looks like you lost castling rights. How is white not better here? Well, the engine finds a creative way to be equal here for black. So here, black should play the move c6, and apparently the best move, which is not human, is for white to play queen f3 to pin the pawn to the bishop on b7, but no one's playing that. A human would most likely take on c6 with the bishop or the knight. And here it looks like white's doing great. You're attacking the queen, you've opened the diagonal up for discoveries, the knight can't be taken because it would hang a fork, so how is white not crushing here? Well, it's because black can play the move queen d5, hit your bishop on b5, hit your knight on c6, and if you try c4 to hold the bishop together, then Caden can grab the pawn on g2. It's true you can throw in a discovered check, the king goes to d8, but even after all this, it's black's still better here because, the queen infiltrated, my king is sort of unsafe a little bit, and this position is just better for black for those reasons, even though the king is on d8. But I don't think a human would have voluntarily went into that. So after queen d5, he played queen d5 instead, and he's hitting my g2 pawn, so it kind of looks like I wasted a move because I either have to move my knight back to f3 to block the attack, but I didn't feel like that was productive, so I decided to castle here, which is also fine. So here, Caden played bishop b7, and he's already on move 10, threatening to checkmate me. So I knew this was a very aggressive sideline he's playing against me this time. So here I decided to go with knight f3 to block the diagonal and also defend on d4. So here he plays bishop d6, and here, after bishop d6, I was getting kind of worried that he would checkmate me because I was worried he would swing the queen over to h5. He would aim at at h2, and he would also aim at my knight on f3, which is defending that pawn. So he already has the bishop pair and the queen staring down at my king, and that looked very, very unsettling. Now the engine here says I can just scoff at that. I can just ignore it and play like rook e1, something slow. And if queen h5, it's scarier than it looks because you can just play knight e5, you offer a trade, and you block the bishop. So this is a way to neutralize the bishop pair attack, and I would be fine here. So I was sort of seeing ghosts again. But here I kind of overreacted, and I played bishop g5 just to put a piece in the way so that the queen can't transfer to h5. But even bishop g5 is a totally fine move also. I'm also having ideas of taking on f6 to maybe damage his pawn structure. And I was expecting maybe Caden to play h6, in which case I would have had to make a decision about whether to take the knight and open the g-file against my king, or to just move the bishop to like h4 or something. And frankly, I was expecting to see that. But here, Caden played the move knight g4. And this move is very interesting. He's belligerent. He's trying to checkmate me as quickly as possible. He has 4 pieces bearing down on my king side, and I don't really have any threats against him. So it looks like he's just putting his foot on the gas even more. Now here, there's actually a threat for black. Black can, in some lines, play bishop takes h2 check, and my knight can't take that bishop because it would open up the diagonal for his bishop and queen to checkmate me. So that's why I was getting a little bit freaked here. And here, I played the move. I was thinking about 2 candidate moves. I played the better one, thankfully. I played the move c4 in the game, just kicking the queen out, asking it what it's going to do. Just to illustrate the point of how potent knight g4 looks, if you try to kick the knight away with h3, a very natural move, expecting the knight to go back, well, the knight's not going to go back. The knight is instead going to sink its teeth into h2, hit your knight on f3 again, and that knight is immune to capture because it would open up queen takes g2 checkmate. So I would have to play rook e1, and then Caden can achieve a much better position after knight takes f3, queen takes f3, queen takes f3, g takes f3, bishop takes f3, and he's just up a pawn here. And even though I'm not getting checkmated, this endgame is just much better for black here. So I knew h3 wasn't a move. You can't just do something slow like that. I was also thinking about rook e1 with the idea to try to play bishop to e4 and try to win the bishop by pinning the queen to the bishop over here. But this doesn't work either because Caden can either play bishop takes h2 or knight takes h2. If bishop takes h2, check, king f1, he would just move the bishop back. And even though I can play bishop b4 and think I'm a genius for winning material, I'm not a genius because he plays the move queen b5 check because my king is on f1, and I'm not winning any material here. So that was what could have happened if bishop takes h2. And if he played knight takes h2, which is the slightly better move because you're adding more pressure on the knight, if I tried bishop e4 here, then he could have played knight takes f3 check. I'm sorry about that pop-up. Queen takes f3, queen takes g5, bishop takes b7, rook b8. Even though black can't castle here and has to put the king on e7, black's still better here because they're up a pawn, and one of my pawns around my king is eliminated, and maybe they can start an attack with like h5, h4, h3 or something like that. That's why black is slightly favored here, but that was what could have happened if rook e1. But here I play the best move. I play c4, and I'm trying to dislodge the queen from that diagonal. It's very menacing. So here he played the move bishop takes h2 check. Again, the bishop is immune from capture because it would open up the checkmate. So I have to go to the corner with king h1. And here, Caden's only move to be fine here is queen d6 to add some more stability to his bishop on h2. But here he plays the very natural move queen c6, probably intending to stay on the diagonal for as long as possible and just not leave and just keep an eye on that on my diagonal. And here that looked like a bit of a blunder because I play the move d5 here, and I'm gaining tempo on the queen, and I'm also closing the diagonal. So if he takes like my pawn here, I would just take his bishop on h2, and there's no checkmate because his pawn's in the way. So that was my idea. I would hit his queen and also block the diagonal, and I would end up winning material. But Caden finds this move, queen d6, and it looks like he's holding everything together. But in here, I missed the tactic to win a piece, which is kind of upsetting because I could have been winning against him for the first time we've ever played. So here I could have just been winning a piece really early. And that move here, it's good for tactics training. That move here is c5. And I wish I saw this move over the board. I'm kind of upset I didn't see it. The idea of c5 is that you're not only hitting the queen, but you're also opening up this queen a4 check resource, which would hit his king and also hit his knight on g4. So black has two threats to deal with, and he can't move this queen anywhere that protects against queen a4 check. So if I had found that move, I would have just collected his knight on g4 and probably went on to win the game. And it's up kind of tilting that I didn't see it, because looking at it, it looks like a relatively simple tactic. Just remember, checks captures threats, and this is a threat. So I unfortunately missed this resource. Just to show the point, if queen takes d5, you play the check, you scoop up the knight, and you're just totally better here. Even if black takes your bishop, remember the bishop on h2 is hanging after all this. So after something like king takes h2, white is up a piece for 2 pawns. And although black can do a little bit of resistance, I'm probably going to win this game, even against Caden. But I unfortunately missed that, and I play the move knight d4. And I thought this move was pretty logical too, because I'm opening up a discovery on his knight on g4, and also preparing to go knight b5 in some lines and attack the queen and also c7. So I thought this move also made a lot of sense. And here, Caden plays an absolutely savage gangster move, and I invite you guys to pause, but I think the engine kind of spoils the fun here. Here, Caden did play the savage move. He played the absolutely gangster move, bishop to g1. And I almost broke out laughing here because this move is just so ridiculous for a ton of reasons. He's sacrificing 2 pieces in one move. The knight on g4 is still hanging, and his bishop can be taken by both my king and rook. But I can't take the pieces in any way because queen h2 checkmate would happen no matter which piece I took. And playing a move like bishop g1 is just, you have to also try not to smile when you play that move because it's just such a cool move. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, what is that move? Wow. I was sort of fascinated. So after bishop g1, I'm like, wow, okay, well, I can't take either his knight or the bishop. And he's also threatening knight takes f2, which would fork my king and queen. So I thought I was just sort of busted here. So I think for a little bit, and I'm down a few minutes on time, but I eventually settle with f4. I don't really have too many options. I have to stop the checkmate. But apparently the Stockfish is saying that taking the knight on d4 here is the better move. And apparently black would be minus 0.8. But the human move is knight f2 check, which Caden played immediately. Now apparently this move is bringing it back to zeros, roughly. And that's kind of weird because, you're up in exchange. So after rook takes f2, bishop takes f2, I play the move knight b5, as I said, in some lines to hit the queen and hit the pawn on c7. And here the queen really only has 2 squares to go to, either c5 or d7. This queen to c5 is slightly better, but Caden chooses to play queen d7, which it's still fine. I'm barely better, but only if I play the move queen h5, which I unfortunately didn't play. And I probably wouldn't have played it even if I thought about it for a long time. Because, like, queen h5, it's like, what are you even aiming at? Like, you're not aiming at any piece or making any sort of immediate threat. Like, what does that do? And the threat is actually to take this pawn on e6 in some lines, and also threaten knight takes c7. The pawn on f7's pinned as well. Black can't castle either direction, because if they castle kingside, it would be checkmate, and my bishop on g5 controls castling queenside. So actually, black's king is in a little bit of trouble here. The best move for black is king f8, or one of the moves is king f8. Apparently, taking was better. So if king f8 happens, watch how quickly I can start generating an attack, even though I'm down material. So I could have played rook f1 here, and then after bishop c5 or something, I could have just played f5, and even though I'm down 3 points in material, I'm like starting to checkmate his king. Like, this is looking pretty bad for black later down the road. But I unfortunately don't play that. I play queen f3 because I wanted to sort of attack his bishop and also have ideas of playing d takes e6, which would hit his queen and also the bishop on b7. So he played the very cunning move h6, and that's a very good move because it's threatening to take my bishop with devastating threats towards my king. Now, if I was anticipating something like bishop c5, just saving the bishop normally, my idea would have been takes on e6 to hit his queen, counterattack his queen, and also hit the bishop on b7, queen c6, and something like a sample line could either be queen takes c6, where we just trade, and then I take on c7, which is possible, but the engine suggests this ridiculous line where you go rook e1, black castles, because you're lining up on the king in the center. You go queen h3 to threaten stuff on black's king, h6, e7, rook fe8, bishop to e4, queen takes, rook takes, bishop takes, and bishop h4. And yeah, this is a very insane line that I could have went into if he had played bishop c5, but that's just ridiculous. Caden played the much better move h6, and he's counterattacking my bishop as well. So here I think about what to do. I didn't really have too much time to think. He's ahead like 15 minutes on the clock. So here I try to go with queen h5 to try to pin the pawn. Here he plays the move g6, and here I was super tempted to capture on g6, and I was thinking, I don't know, I was maybe thinking to pull the queen back on h3 or h2 to maintain the pin. But I'm like, let's have some fun. Let's sacrifice. Let's go bishop takes g6. We're down material. We might as well try to play an immortal game. So after bishop takes g6, the only winning move for Caden is to take my bishop and accept the sacrifice, which he does. Queen takes g6 check. And here he plays the best move, which is king f8. If he had played queen f7 here, that looks very logical because you're offering a queen trade, and my bishop on g5 is still hanging. This looks very logical. But because the queen's pinned now, thanks to my queen, I can get away with knight takes c7 check. Now that might not look very appealing to you, because what about king f8? Like, you still have to deal with the queen trade and also worry about your bishop hanging on g5. It's not like you can take the rook or anything. When I was looking at this, I was thinking about knight takes e6 check in my head. And I was expecting the king to go back to e8, in which case it would be drawn because I would go back to c7, and he would go back to f8 to keep defending the queen, and we would just repeat moves. But what I missed here in my mental calculations is that Caden can sack his queen, because I can't take, because he would take my bishop and open up that h-file, and I can't go anywhere with my king. That bishop on f2 is very annoying. So if I play something like bishop f6 to hit his rook and maintain an attack on the queen, he can play a move like queen g8 and get out of dodge and just offer a trade and neutralize my threats. But here, you might have noticed that it's drawn, not because of knight takes e6, but because of bishop to e7 check. This is a super ridiculous, savage move. This is probably the move of the game if we had went into this. This is disgusting. The only move for black, this is to stay equal for white. The only move for black is king takes bishop. Then I would have to play d6 check, and I'm trying to deflect the king away from the queen. And he has to go to f8 to keep defending. And now I play knight takes c6, and the difference here is that by sacrificing the bishop, the pawn can't take anything, to open up the H file, and he can't sack because, well, I would take, and there's no threat on the H file. So he would have to go back to E8, and then it would go knight C7 check, knight E6, knight C7, and we would get a draw by repetition. So bishop E7 check is just ridiculous. It's so beautiful. But we didn't go into any of that stuff. He played king F8, and here I thought I was still doing okay because I played queen F6 check. I'm hitting his rook. He goes king G8, and I thought maybe I can squeeze in D captures E6 to try to hit his queen and threaten maybe queen F7 stuff. But here I saw an absolutely disgusting line. He can play H takes G5 check, and even though I can get his rook, he plays the very savage king G7, and because of his monstrous bishops, rook H8 is pretty much unstoppable. I can't go to G1 because of the bishop on F2, and my G-pawn is pinned by the bishop on B7, so I can't push it to create luft. And my king is just stranded on the H file, and I would get checkmated. So that would have been disgusting. I saw that, and I'm like, dang, I can't play that, so I play queen G6 check. He blocks with the queen, trying to trade. I take on E6. He blocks with queen F7, and here I realized that my checks were gone. I can't really continue the attack, and so I have to settle being down a rook here. So I try to fight on. I play bishop to F6, hitting his rook. He decides to trade queens, and even though he's up a rook, it's still a little bit complicated because I have pretty advanced pawns on F4 and E6, and maybe I can create some counterplay against his pieces. So here I was riding on about like under 20 minutes of time. It was not a lot at all, and he had like 35, so he was doing really well on time and positionally. So he played very accurately here. He played rook H7. I play rook D1, trying to activate my last piece. He plays rook E8. I go F5 to try to hold everything together. He plays rook F8 to attack my bishop and also take an F5 potentially. And here I play E7, and here I had 12 minutes. And after Caden's next move, which was rook takes E7, I was also, instead of E7, thinking, rook takes E7, he had 30 minutes, but instead of E7, I was also looking at this move, trying to invade on the 7th rank, with the idea that if he trades, I would take on D7 and try to promote my pawn. But the engine here says that he can play rook takes F6, and if I try to push and queen, he can sack, and then play rook takes F5, and again, my king is in a very bad spot, and I can't prevent checkmate. So I try E7 here. He decides to sacrifice. I play bishop takes E7, and here he plays rook takes F5, and because of those monstrous bishops and the extremely poor placement of my king, even though the material is even, my king is in a very bad spot, and I can't prevent black's pieces from invading my king. My king is literally a sitting duck. So here, I try to throw in a desperate check, and if he went to F7, I could have traded the rooks off and been fine, but he didn't do that. Bit of hope chess. He played king H7, and now rook H5 check is pretty much unstoppable. If I try like rook D3 with the idea to meet rook H5 with rook H3, because of that bishop on B7 that's pinning my G-pawn, he can actually just take my rook on H3 if we had went into that. So I realized I can't even do that. I can't even push this pawn. I can't move my king. I can't escape this mating net. And here, I'm pretty much lost no matter what I do. But I try rook D5 to try to prevent the check. But all he does, it's really simple. He just takes it, and checkmate is still unavoidable. And it's mate in 2 here. And in this position, I resign against Caden Qiao. We lose. So if you take a look at the accuracy, I had 76.3 and he had 90.1. So he played really well, but I'm kind of tilted, kind of a bit bummed out that I could have won against Caden if I had found C5 and Queen A4 check. So just some tactical blindness. At least in this game, I proved that he's a human and can make mistakes too. Because in the last game, he played a superb endgame and played at like a 95 accuracy. So here, he just played really well. Even though he slipped, I didn't take advantage of it, and that's what cost me the game. So I still had fun playing against him as always. And a lot to learn from this game. So, yeah, if you like this video, let me know in the comments. Let me know what you thought. And have a great rest of your day or night. Bye.